Buy, sell or rent your property with Century 21 and you could win a brand new 2-bedroom apartment on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. Visit c21win.com.au for your chance to win.
Welcome back to Your Property Empire. Well, joining me on the show tonight is Carolyn Perella, the Executive Manager at Terry Shearer Insurance, and we've just been joined, as usual, by Charles Tarbey, Chairman and Owner of Century 21 Australasia.
That's better.
Well, current affairs shows often show stories where tenants have trashed a property. So what are some of the things a landlord can do to avoid that happening to them? And Charles, I'm sure you've seen a few stories in your time.
Yes. I've been involved in a couple too. I didn't do the trashing though. I didn't do the trashing. The insurance has come a long way. Many years ago, probably would have been over 20 years ago, when landlord insurance was pretty much in its infancy, we started dealing with an organisation to build a number of different products, including buyer products, insurance as well for homes when they purchase and so on. And they've come a long way since then, and the pricing of them nowadays is really quite exceptional compared to what you can get for it. And I've seen a lot of damage, malicious damage. Even some insurance policies in the other days didn't cover malicious damage. So, it was very, very difficult for a lot of people. So it has come a long way since then.
Now, I'm sure you can tell us some stories of some horrendous things. So the few $100s for the insurance policy would be a peanuts.
Absolutely. And I think too, we were talking earlier about the importance of having a property manager. I mean, to me, that's the number one thing, is to help avoid
preventative maintenance.
Absolutely, the preventative maintenance. So appointing a property manager and again, just making sure that you've got insurance, and that you've got insurance that... it was a good point you made there, Charles, about malicious damage not being covered, because there are still some policies where you have to choose whether you want that to be covered. So it's just that buyer beware all the time.
Because how bad can it get? Literally, the house is burned down and there's nothing left.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've had claims where literally the whole kitchens have been stolen, including the sink, everything.
Yeah, the kitchen sink. Yeah.
Tell us more, Charles.
You see some incredible things, and especially if you get some people who get a bit wild at a party, and it can absolutely destroy an investor's position, and that's the worst part of it. A lot of people don't know. I mean, bad tenants are not common. It's not like that's what you see. That's what you see. And when they do damage, they do some serious damage, and it can send some people broke. And I've seen it people go close to going broke over it. Yeah.
So what else can you do? Obviously, hiring a property manager is a very good start. Anything else?
Keeping the property well maintained too. So presenting it as best you can to attract the best type of tenant as well. Refresh it in between tenancies and make sure, especially if you've got new developments springing up around you, you want to keep your property to be attracting the best type of tenant.
Well, one of the best ways to do that is, as a landlord myself, is to offer mowing services. And so, my guys might go around, and it doesn't work that well on a commercial floor, of course, but
or in a unit.
Mowing, or a unit. But to go around and mow the lawns and maintain the gardens is fantastic for tenants. They love it, and it keeps them there, and it keeps them more engaged in the property. Better presented.
Yep.
And is that really an excuse to get the gardener to keep an eye on the property and have a look in the windows to see if something's happening?
That is another way of looking at maintenance on a property, for sure. And if you put people in an average house, then they're going to treat it that way, and I understand completely. But if you go out of your way and improve it here and there and make a difference and check on them, and when you're doing your inspections with them as a landlord, ask them, what is it that you need? That if I can afford it, I'll do it for you. If it fits, I'll do it for you. But you can't go over the top in some cases.
So, Carolyn, with a renovation, I guess on one hand you could say you make it pristine and you get amazing tenants, but also you go and put $100,000 into a property, that's $100,000 that could get trashed.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's obviously keeping it in proportion to the property itself, and there is a risk. And I think the other risk is too that you've got people coming and going more frequently, so wear and tear on the property. Like the houses that we live in, that we own, we have wear and tear on, but when you've got people coming in more frequently, you will get that wear and tear.
Look, investors shouldn't buy properties with swimming pools in them. You know, if you're an investor, the worst thing you can do is buy a property with a swimming pool. There's just going to be so much maintenance, so much effort, so many problems. And they're the things you see trashed first in most properties.
And especially if you're in a penthouse, because that's a lot of floors that the water can go down.
I told you, I live in the Blue Mountains, Chris. We don't have penthouses.
No, I'm just saying as an investor...
I don't know what they look like.
If you're investing in those kind of things. Now, does the length of the lease make much of a difference? I mean, like most leases are 6 or 12 months.
Yeah, I think 6 is probably too little nowadays. I think 2 years is too much. So, because if you don't adjust the rent, if you don't give yourself an opportunity to do a rent review at least after 12 months, yeah, it's not good for you. And also, if you want to sell the property, or if you're forced to sell, you're sitting there and you can't do much about it unless you're going to pay somebody out if they want to move, that is.
Because I guess 6 months, then you might get more kind of transient type people.
And you'll also get an idea, you could do, but you'll also get an idea over a period of time whether you want to keep going with tenants. So 12 months, my son said to me the other day, "Oh, Dad, the lease has come up." I said, "You know, it's only just recent." I said, "It seems like it's only yesterday." He said, "Yeah, you know, what do I do?" And I said, "I'd probably go for 12 months this time round."
Yeah, I've been in my place for 5 or 6 years, and we just do year by year, because, again, for a tenant, you don't overcommit either. So, certainly. When it comes to hiring an agent, is it best to get a local agent, do you think, or an out-of-town one? Because is the local one going to be more likely to keep an eye on it?
Personally, I think so. I've got a couple of properties, and ours are managed by different agents, all local to the area, so they know exactly everything about the area, and I think that's the way to go.
One of the things we suggest is that the agents, when they drive to work, they just drive to work a different way each time, and have a look at some of their properties, and you're not going to get that if it's an out-of-town agent.
That's right.
So certainly some good ideas there, but definitely I think the message is take out some insurance. It's not worth taking the risk, so get a good night's sleep. Right, Charles, time to talk about the clearance rates. Yes,
they're actually pretty good. They're just better than this time last year in most of the capital cities, which is very interesting. We were sort of hoping it might pull back a little bit, but the actual clearance rates across the country were 77%, and this time last year was 72.3%. So Sydney came in at the best at 83.5, but it was followed very closely by Canberra at 81.5. So Canberra's been pretty good for the last couple of weeks in a row. Melbourne came in 76.7%. And Brisbane, what I like about Brisbane is that it's been consistent. Like, it's not a great auction state, it's not the biggest auction state, but they achieved 50.6%. And over the last few weeks, they've been sitting in the 50s to late 50s, which I think is very good for the Brisbane market.
Wonderful. And what about homes advertised for sale?
Yeah, this is 3 weeks in a row. It's increased at 1.24%. So I'm really liking that. And again, if we see that over the next few weeks, that's where the change kicks in. That's where people really need to watch very closely, because more of the stock across the board, there's still areas in Sydney where it's tight, but more across the country and capital cities that comes in, the better it's going to be for buyers. And it's going to make the banks less nervous and Reserve Bank less nervous when it comes to interest rates and so on.
And again, like we always say, there's multiple property markets, so it's hard when you get in the media talking about one single
Look, we always
market.
See what's going on in Sydney and Melbourne, and that's the focus, Chris, and unfortunately that's like auctions would not probably be, and I'm guessing here, but they're not going to be more than 10% of the overall transactions that go through in the country. So we measure it off that because it's live, not necessarily accurate.
And how about the rents?
Yeah, they're actually not too bad. They're up 0.7% over this time last week. The best performer was Sydney at 0.95%, but the worst performer was Hobart at 4.09%. But that's okay. There are only slight incremental movements across the country, and I think also watching Brisbane, it's not too bad. It's steady. Darwin was down, but Melbourne was up. So again, on average, it's up 0.7%.
Wonderful. And finally, just the vacancy rates.
Yeah, they're good. I'm glad Perth's come back a bit at 10.57. It was getting high again. I'd like to see that lower. Melbourne won again this week, 1.49%, followed by Sydney at 1.78%. But that's an average of 4.61%. So we've got to keep pushing Perth, and I can see a change in Perth, Chris. I can see the change coming. I was there recently. The guys are really working hard, battling hard to get through it. But again, that's a good indication that that's the sort of place you want to invest in, not the hot markets that everybody talks about.
So, a balanced market. Good to see you as always, Charles.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us as well and giving some insights into insurance. Now, just a reminder that on Friday the 24th, that's this Friday, right through to Sunday the 26th of Feb, there's a property expo at Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. There's going to be a whole number of speakers there, including myself, I think Margaret Lomas and some other speakers on Sky, who will generally be educating and updating the attendees on various aspects around property investing and financing. Now, just a reminder, tickets are normally $20 for the day or $50 for the 3 days, but you can get in absolutely free. Just go to propertybuyerexpo.com.au, use the code SkyNewsVIP, and you can get in absolutely free. I hope to see you down there. I'll be down there on all 3 days, so come on, say good day. Anyway, thanks for joining us this evening. Until next week, I'm Chris Gray. Good night.
The information featured in this program is general in nature and therefore should not be relied upon. Guests appearing on the program may have commercial arrangements with some of the companies mentioned. Before making any investment, insurance or financial planning decisions, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you.